Hey guys, it is Esti and Justin from Not For Long Media.
If you like the video you're about to watch, be sure to like the video itself and subscribe to our channel. We really appreciate it.
Enjoy the video and also don't forget to follow us on our socials at Not For Long Media on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
What is going on, everybody? This is your host of Not For Long Media, Colin Thompson. Welcome back to another episode of Thompy Time. I'm looking at a screen full of friends, which is awesome. This is why I did this, is to get some friends together, talk about sports, talk about the crazy worlds that we get to live, and then, you know, kind of bring everyone together and talk about what the heck's going on. There's a lot going on in the sports world lately. Obviously, the Atlanta Braves have won it all. They've won the World Series, going from a subpar team pre-All-Star break to winning it all. But the gentleman I'm looking at, my co-host Justin Ayers, Jansen, long snapper, Carolina Panthers, NFL veteran, and Florida Gator pitcher, Germantown Academy pitcher, and then went in the Cincinnati Reds organization for a few years, Keenan Kish. So, Keenan, I'll start with you. How you doing, man?
Doing great, Kyle. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. JJ, Justin, glad to be with you.
Yeah, appreciate you coming on, man. JJ, what's going on, man?
Doing good. It is crazy time at the Jansen household. We call it the witching hour, post-dinner, pre-bed. So if those doors right over here get bombarded, I won't leave, but we may have more guests.
That's fine. As you can tell, we can handle all types of guests here. Justin Ayers checking in from Annapolis, Maryland. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
That's great. We got a full group tonight, which is so much fun for us and a lot to talk about. But I'm going to send it over to you, Justin, right away. Steer this ship for us, man. Talk about our topics at hand. What do we got with this Justin?
So I want to lead off, and I want to say congratulations to the Atlanta Braves. They sealed the deal in their first World Series since '95. I wasn't alive. They beat the Astros in 6 games. I thought it would take 7, but they got it done in 6. The Braves had to overcome so much adversity this season, and actually even this postseason, because their ace broke his leg. So it's been an incredible run for the Braves. Braves fans finally got the monkey off their back after all these years. But it sounds like we have a couple people here on the call that, you know, have a little vested interest in the Braves. So, you know, JJ, as a Braves fan yourself, like, what did this mean to finally see him hoist a trophy for the first time in 2 decades?
Well, it was fun for us. You know, I've said, like, I was a lifelong Diamondbacks fan who's become now what I feel like is a lifelong Braves fan since I've moved to Charlotte here 12 years ago. It was pretty wild to wake my son up at like 11:45 at night to watch the final out. It's a really big deal to him, which makes it a really big deal to me. So that was kind of a special moment. And I thought to myself, when I was a Diamondbacks fan, like, they won their one and only World Series when I was 12. My son's 8 and they've already won a World Series. So I was like, my God, like I became like jealous of my own son. Like he's got to already do this once at 8. You know, the sky's the limit. So all of his favorite players are all like the young kids, the 23, 24-year-old Acuñas and Albies of the world. So I think in the back of his mind, they're just going to keep doing this every year. So I don't know if he loved it or not, but he was thrilled for one night.
Yeah, absolutely. The pitching in this series was, nobody really knew. Like, you know, game 1, Charlie Morton breaks his leg, goes down. The Braves were thin on starters. You know, Keenan, a former pitcher yourself, I know you got to check out a couple of these World Series games. You know, how do you think the Braves fared after all the stuff they had overcome?
Yeah, you know what? I think it's a lesson for the Phillies, and I'm not to spin it back to the Phillies, but, you know,
Absolutely spin it back to the Phillies. They need to learn a lesson.
Wild card, put yourself in a wild card position. Anything can happen. And you know, the Braves had the hot hand, and they rolled with the momentum. Give them a lot of credit, and they played the game like kids that had nothing to lose and just had everything to prove at the same time. So it was a lot of fun to watch. But I think when you look at the pitching and the makeup of, you know, what every kid dreams of as far as pitching the World Series, bottom 9, 2 outs, the whole 9 yards, it was truly a Johnny Holstaff effort. You had a lot of guys coming in from the pen. Not too many of the pitchers going very deep in the series and the playoffs in general. So it was really neat to see guys come in and, you know, play their role, whether it was a combination of, you know, 3 or 6 outs and pass the baton to the next guy.
Yeah, it was an unbelievable series. We were in Atlanta Sunday playing the Falcons. It was a huge win for us and our organization. And then we leave, and then all of a sudden, Houston forces the series to continue. They go to Houston, and all of a sudden I turn the TV on and the ball's bouncing off the train tracks, JJ. And I was listening to part of my take today, and they're like, they should burn those train tracks. They should never come back. I thought was brilliant but it's so cool to ever catch a game there. Is incredible at Minute Maid. It's a really cool park to watch a game. But JJ, what was the chemistry like for Atlanta, right? You've been a part of some great teams. Obviously, you watch a lot of the World Series. This is a part of your family. You've been some great teams in Carolina here that went to a Super Bowl, NFC Championships games. You're a Pro Bowler, all pro guy yourself. So you've been around people. You've seen what it's like.
Keep going. This sounds good. Yeah, just keep going.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm the second best snapper on the team. So I have that going for me. All right. So JJ, you've been around a lot of success, and you are a successful person. And now you see a team like Atlanta, right? Get hot. Keenan brought it up, a wild card team, a lesson for teams around, around baseball, around sports. But what was it that it made Atlanta take that next step, right? Because they have the talent. They were missing some key players, Acuna, a pitcher, a lot of studs. So why did they succeed?
I think one of the biggest things you see on that team is they overcame some adversity. And I think that started last year, losing a series to the Dodgers up 3-1 and losing 3 straight. So you have a little bit of adversity. You kind of have a renewed focus, and then you lose your best player in Acuna in the middle of the year. And they were struggling at the time. And I think what you end up getting sometimes is a team sort of rallying around a common mission. I think it starts as, all right, we got to pick up the slack for the guy that we lost. But then you start winning, and especially in baseball, it's such a team sport in the regards of, Mike Trout's the greatest baseball player of my generation. He's never won a playoff game. You need a complete team. You need 9 hitters. You need a full staff. You need the great bullpen. And I think what you saw, especially in the playoffs, was each game and really each series kind of had its 1 or 2 superstars. But those were largely no-name guys. Jorge Soler, Eddie Rosario, the series before that, Jock Peterson the series before that. And so what I think in baseball, especially what you can get is not only is there some good vibes and good energy. Jock Peterson kind of talked about it down the stretch, especially in the playoffs. But I also think there's not the pressure that like I have to be the guy tonight, because if I go 0 for 4, the guy behind me might hit the game-winning home run. And I think once you start feeling like anyone on your team could be the guy that delivers, it takes the pressure off of a lot of guys. I watched LA, and when they played Atlanta, it really felt like those guys were feeling like, I got to be the guy. I got to be the guy. A team like Atlanta that was a little bit more no-name-ish, with the exception maybe Freddie Freeman, Ozzie Albies, young guy, like a little bit more no-name-ish. Didn't really feel like anyone really pressed. Freddie Freeman started the NLCS 0 for 8 with 7 strikeouts. I don't think he stopped hitting after that. So he clearly didn't go in a funk. Passed the baton, that bullpen, they called themselves the night shift. Thought that was great. Like, just get it to the 6th, and we'll just start knocking them down 1 inning at a time. The Braves bullpen was the weak spot through 3 months of the season. That was the reason why they were going to lose in the playoffs. And they turned themselves from a weakness into a strength, which was pretty cool to see how that energy sort of kind of turned over, especially at the All-Star break. They trade for 4 outfielders, a brand new outfield, and those guys seem to be the energy setters the whole postseason.
Yeah, no doubt, and some great points there. And for Keenan, right, JJ's brought up the bullpen. You've been a part of bullpens. You've been a starting pitcher. What are some things going through that group's mind as, hey, we're going to create some energy. We're going to call ourselves the night shift. We're going to have a mantra. Obviously, you guys are a tight-knit group. You're kind of always together. You're kind of in your own part of the park. What's that like, creating that energy? And is that why they had success? Because they try to create that common bond?
Yeah, no, I think it's something for guys to rally around. And as JJ said, kind of getting behind the common mission. They were, no pun intended, definitely the good vibe tribe. They got the pearls going on with Jock, and you got everyone in the bullpen night shift. I love it. I think it's great. So I really think it is, and I think so much in sports is, you might be in this box in terms of the type of player that you are and what your capabilities are. But if you psych yourself out enough, you can do anything, right? You guys take the field for a football game. The guy you're towing up against is way bigger than you, way faster than you, more years in the league. But in your own mind, you're the best guy on the field. And I think you just saw that with the Braves, where they really just accepted, like, hey, I know my role and I'm going to sell out and I'm not looking back. I don't care what happened last inning. I don't care what happened last at bat. We're turning the page and thinking forward. So I just thought it was apparent all the way through. And I really think that stems from great leadership and management. You look at the approach. You have Ron Washington, hitting fungos to Freddie Freeman and the other infielders, religiously. They never broke their routine. They stayed in their routine the whole time. It didn't matter what the stage was. And they saw it through. So I give them all the credit for being consistent, and then just grabbing that little X factor at the end with the energy and just tacking it on, getting the fans involved. And I mean, it was electric. I'm fired off. I'm actually headed to Atlanta tomorrow, going to the George Strait Eric Church concert. And with the parade, I wasn't initially planning that in my itinerary. So might have to do a little bit of adjusting in terms of getting around town, but I'm excited. I'll probably just jump in the parade and enjoy the day with the Atlanta locals. It'll be fun.
Absolutely. And speaking for someone who I wasn't really a Giants fan growing up, but I went to the Giants ticker tape parade, and that was unbelievable in New York City.
Cool.
The parades are unreal to see, whether you're a fan or not. Before we send it over to Justin for him to get back a hold of the wheel, Keenan, did you like coming out of the bullpen better, or did you like being a starting pitcher?
Yeah, no, I love the bullpen. I just kind of found myself as a player where if I knew that, call it, middle relief, which is my predominant role, I knew that fifth, sixth inning, there was an opportunity that I was going to go in. So you kind of train yourself mentally to hang loose, keep it light with the guys, play all kinds of games in the bullpens, mess with fans, whatever it might be, just to keep things fun, because it does get intense when your number's called and you've got 8 pitches to get loose and you get a few out there and there's men on base and there's one out. You don't know what you're going to get thrown into. So I think trying to stay as calm as possible is huge, but your teammates are there to support you. So that's one thing I really loved about the bullpen, was everybody was kind of in the same boat, and it was like a bingo wheel. It's like, all right, who's going in, and just trying to gas that guy up as much as possible, to just watch him go out there and be successful. So I enjoyed it. It was fun. Definitely a lot of superstitions and storytelling and just great time. Some of my best baseball memories came from just sitting in the bullpen eating sunflower seeds. So take that any day.
I just had like a quick team chemistry question because I think JJ brought this up, but the Atlanta Braves, they had an entirely new outfield. They had to bring in guys because all of their outfielders either got hurt in combinations of that and got suspended. So when you bring in an entire new group, and Adam Duvall, a Rosario, a Jock Peterson, those guys look like they'd all been playing together for decades. How do you guys on a team, how do you handle guys being brought in, and then how do you make them feel a part of the team and have a seamless transition?
Yeah, absolutely. I think just like the NFL or, any professional sport or sports in general, it's a brotherhood, right? So, you may have been playing against a guy at one point earlier in the year, and now he's on your team. You just welcome him. It's like, hey, this guy's going to help us win. He's here for a reason. And just trusting each other. Now, granted, you're talking about, the top 1% of baseball players in the world, and those guys, even without verbally communicating, they can sense each other. They're also working off analytics of saying, hey, here's our positioning. These are balls that center fielder is going to take priority over right or left field. So, they learn pretty quick. I mean, these guys are really good at what they do. I think it's fun too. It's a small fraternity community, if you will. And they all know each other. So, they understand each other's strong suits and weak points and are there to pick each other up.
There's been plenty of free agents, trades, etc., that have happened for you, JJ, through your career in Carolina, right? I've been a part of the workout wire and been brought into a locker room. There's plenty of challenges that as being the new guy. That is really hard. We've all been the new guy in here, every single one of us, whether you're working, whether you're going to school, everyone listening to this podcast has been the new person somewhere. For us in our business, I know what it's like. JJ knows what it's like. It is extremely challenging. Have you been part of teams, JJ, that have had big overhauls? Carolina, we had a nice, a massive, I say massive, but we had a large overhaul this year with a full draft and free agents. And what's that chemistry like for you? Because you've seen so many people come and go. Can you touch on the people that come and go? Can you touch on those relationship buildings and then team chemistry and how that all goes together?
Yeah, I've been part of one major overhaul, and that's been kind of the last 18 months. Back when I was a young player, John Fox transitioned into Ron Rivera. A lot of the core guys were actually getting re-signed. They were the young core, so those were the guys I kind of knew, and they stayed. So this was really the first sort of major overhaul. But I do remember in a few of our really good years, 13, 14, 15, we brought in a lot of veterans. And I think that's one of the things you saw with the Braves. All those guys they brought in, 8, 10, 12-year pros, guys who've been professional baseball players, whether here or in like Soler's case, like Cuba, like they've been professionals for a long time. And those, I think as a pro, you're a little bit more mature, you're a little bit older, you kind of know how things work. I think those veteran pros, and I use that term very specifically, they know how to get involved, get into the team. They bring their own energy. They're guys that they go out of their way to connect with teammates, and teammates want to connect to them. Jared Allen came in 15, Peanut Tillman, Roman Harper the year before. Like these were guys who they were their own names, and then they came in. And one of the things that we saw was they were superstars on their own teams, maybe near the end of their career, and they sort of conformed to the group and the culture that was there. And then that's also management's job to find the guys that will easily adapt into the culture. And in the case of 15, with some of those players I just mentioned, they were the guys that were there to be great teammates. So they played hard, they worked hard, they brought their own energy. Lots been made in the years past. Roman Harper used to get all the rookies together to have a guns day on Friday after practice. Like that never happened before. He came in and said, no, this is what we're going to go do. And they made it a ton of fun. And so now the guys wanted to be a part of that. So I think when you get the right people that are pros, that, they've got the experience, not only do they conform, but they kind of get guys that conform to them. And it's a good marriage, even if it's only for a short period of time. I think you saw it in Atlanta. I know that that's happened a few times in my career, and it's cool to see because it becomes very natural. It's organic. It's not made up. It's not fake. So when it's real, it's real.
I love that. All right. Let's transition into something equally as fun. The college football playoff rankings, the first of the season, were announced this Tuesday. And good God, there's no shortage of storylines and takes that came off this. For anyone who missed it, I'll just run through the first couple. Obviously, Georgia at the top. Nobody really had anything wrong with that. Then Alabama 2, Michigan State 3, Oregon 4, Ohio State 5, and then Cincinnati got lumped down there at 6. No love for the group of 5. I think that's kind of where we have to start, is Cincinnati being ranked 6th. They're 8-0. Like Colin, I know you're chomping at the bit to get your Cincy takes off as an American Athletic Conference guy. But when you saw number 6, what was your first reaction?
My first reaction was they control their own destiny. Yes, they need some things to happen, but they need to win out. They need some teams to lose in front of them, and someone will lose because Alabama is going to play Georgia. But is a 2-loss Alabama team better than Cincinnati? That's the question you have to ask yourself. Who is alive and well in the American Athletic Conference? Who can sneak into the rankings? I'm sure they're going to want to rank one of the American Athletic Conference teams that they're going to face in the conference championship. Who from the other side can make that happen, if that's even possible? I don't follow like I used to. But no, it's unique. It's crazy for what Cincinnati has done. It's also crazy about our Gators, Keenan, how they have not done well this year. Have you been to watch any of their games, Key?
I've had to turn it off, and I love the Gators. It's frustrating. It really is. Something's not quite right there.
No.
Hopefully they can turn it around. I think this year, unfortunately, is a wash at this rate. But I think just looking to the future, they need to make some changes. Yeah,
some changes will probably be made. I do think Coach Mullen is the answer there, though. I think he is.
Oh, I think he's wonderful. I think he's terrific. I wouldn't want anybody else at the helm. I think perhaps his hands are tied a little bit. And that's a tough position to be
JJ,
in.
what's up with Notre Dame, man? Are they just they're just getting handouts, for their ranking, or what's the deal?
Look, the Irish are right where they probably should be. I think 9th, 10th. Look, their only loss is to Cincinnati. And the only thing that I would say if I was sitting in the committee is if the committee is worried about Cincinnati and some close wins that they've had, wait till they find out about Oregon losing. because the fact that Oregon's sitting there at 4 with a loss, Cincinnati's 1. I don't really, it's all a setup. It's all television. I like to say it's a male soap opera. So we'll tune in next week and there'll be a new storyline. The Irish are probably right where they should be. I'm pushing for Cincinnati to go up the chain. I like Luke Fickell. I'd also like to see them get in the top 4, because then if they get a little bit higher and Notre Dame runs the table, you can say, well, the only loss we have is to one of those teams up there. And so, at the end of the day, it's all about getting Notre Dame into the 4. So I don't really care about the other 3 teams. But if we get Notre Dame in the 4, I'll be fine with that. I mean, I'd expand it to 16 just to get the Irish in. So I don't care.
They're going to lose anyways when they get in there, right?
Yeah, I mean, they'll probably lose the same teams they lose every year, but we'll be able to say yet again, we went to the college football playoff. You don't have to talk about after that. Once school finishes, like the finals are over, no one really cares. So we're good.
Is Notre Dame USC? Is that up there with Florida, Georgia?
No.
I think Florida, Georgia's probably a bigger deal.
Yeah.
Part of the advantage that Florida, Georgia's got, obviously you get the beautiful weather, you got the neutral site. It's the same every year.
Largest cocktail party in the world.
USC situation is we alternate. So for those of you that don't know, Notre Dame always plays either USC or Stanford in October in South Bend. And then whatever you're on alternate schedules. And then so whoever doesn't come to us in October, we go there the 2 days after Thanksgiving. And that's kind of the standard deal. So I think not having like a consistent date or consistent location. But when I was at Notre Dame, USC was on top and we were really good there for a few years. And so that was a big deal. But I think consistently year after year, Florida, Georgia is probably a little bit, maybe just slightly above.
Got it.
The fact that Cincy came in at 6, I think that put a nail in the coffin of, I know we would love to see them get into the Final Four there, but like, if you look at the remaining schedule, the fact that like Houston wasn't ranked and they're undefeated, SMU didn't get ranked. Like if those teams were ranked and then like Cincinnati has to play them after, I think that would have helped Cincinnati's case. But like, I think it was Big Cat, I was listening to Part of My Take this morning, and he was saying that if Cincy was 4, like they should have been 4, throw them a bone and then let them drop as they should after that. But the fact that they're 6, there's no chance they can bounce or like bump up a bunch of these other teams like in Oregon, like in Ohio State, that are kind of sitting in that fringe category. But it is the Power 5 only. The group of 5 gets no love, and it'll always be like that. But I think it's going to change once Cincy goes. Where are they going? Big 12?
Yeah, they're going to the Big 12. The American Athletic Conference is losing some of their juggernauts that did so well when I was there. Houston, Cincinnati, and UCF. I think personally, if the train was still rolling at Temple, I think Temple's going with them. There was talk about that before when we were there, but the train is not on the tracks at Temple. Hopefully that gets back on soon. So, JA, is that it for the This Just In segment?
I mean, I was just going to complain about Oklahoma being 8, but I can do that on my own time.
Oklahoma, hey, that's another
They're
team.
undefeated.
They're undefeated. They barely beat Tulane. American Athletic Conference, shout out.
Yes, but they didn't lose. That's the thing that really bothers me. It's like, yeah, they almost lost, but they didn't, and they're still at 8. So no love, no respect.
Hey, Justin, you're probably on this and more in tune than I am, but what's going on with name, image, likeness? What are some of the bigger stories that have hit Twitter or the news in general for some of these college kids getting some sweetheart deals?
I mean, I think it's awesome. Colin could probably speak more to this because he's talked to so many more NIL people, but any of these guys making money out there for car dealerships and finally getting paid over the table as opposed to under, like I'm all for it.
We just had a guest pop in there in the Jansen household, and
he's trying to get some money for name and image likeness. Yeah, he's got a better chance than I do.
As we wrap things up, we'll touch on name, image, likeness. I'll get your perspective, Keenan, as a Florida baseball player, and how, you would have handled that then. But I'll go to JJ first, give you some time to brew over it. First off, I'll go my opinion on the NIL. It's great, right? You get an opportunity to just have a basic human right of make money off yourself. I don't think it's affected the game. I think it's good for the game. I think it's handled correctly. And I think the biggest thing for me, and I've talked about this on the podcast, is how are universities handling it? Are they helping players with financial advisors? Are they, teaching you how to handle the tax implications that come with that? Are they helping you market yourself? Are they helping you handle when you explode or when you're hurt and you can't fulfill some of the obligations that you maybe had to do? There's a lot going on, Keenan. People are getting car deals. Entire teams in college football are getting memberships to gym. And if they tweet 3 or 4 times, they're getting a check for $5,000. So it's endless, right? It's also endless to the fact that a booster can just write a check from a company and say, hey, thanks for coming to our school. Nothing in return, right? So it allows boosters to come in. I think that's the one negative. But at the end of the day, it was happening anyways. I'll start with JJ first, and we'll kick it to Keenan.
Yeah, and name, image, likeness wouldn't have really come up with me. I've been a pro for 14 years, and nobody really cares about me. So it's not. I think I think there's a surge, and then I think it's going to start settling back in, probably largely to the people that should have probably been making money off themselves because they were such a big deal to the school and to their local markets. I don't really see like a big deal about it. I think one of the toughest parts that you have is how do you say that a player can't go get a job or can't use his name for something that's truly marketable and say, well, he's not an amateur. But if you were any other type of student, you can do both of those things. You can be a student, you can be on scholarship for something else and still essentially go have a different job. I mean, it's really a second or a third job. I think what you brought up about tax implications, and unfortunately, I think one of the problems might be, and I think this is something to deal with, not necessarily avoid, is you're turning 18-year-olds potentially into 5, 6, maybe even in some cases 7-figure employees. It's a lot of pressure to put on 18-year-olds who, maybe 3 months prior were living at mom and dad's house, being a high school senior, just being a guy. And that happens from time to time. But I do think that there's a lot that goes on, and they're still trying to be students, and they're still dealing with the pressure of major college sports. So I think it really does put a great onus on the universities, the adults in the room, whether it's the coaches, the compliance staff, whatever, the adults in the room, whoever they are, to help the kids sort of navigate this. Because that's what adults should do, is help young people navigate kind of their process into the professional world. I just always worry, especially in major college football, major college basketball, are the kids being treated as kids, or are they going to be treated as adults that can be used? And hey, we all kind of know the deal here. I hope that there's some sensitivity that the coaches and staff these are young men and young women that are trying to figure this stuff out, and we're here to support and help them, not just use them.
Mm-hmm. Keenan, what are your thoughts, man? How would you handle this in Florida, and what are your thoughts on the overall NIL thing?
Yeah, JJ, I think you had a lot of really awesome points there. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's wonderful for these kids, any athletes, frankly, at the collegiate level, to be able to reap some benefit for the hard work that they've put into their craft. And I agree that I think, and hopefully, there's some checks and balances put in place to make sure that these kids still have the opportunity to be a kid, have the college experience. But if they are going to take that jump and become a young adult, a young professional adult in a way, and be faced with these, financial opportunities, I just hope that athletic associations are truly providing the necessary financial literacy to these kids to be able to make really educated decisions and be able to filter what is out there in terms of resources to help them external to the university, help them make really good educated decisions so they can put that money to good use for themselves and their families or future families. So I really do think it's a wonderful opportunity. Goes without saying, being a college athlete in any sport, it is a full-time job. And I think it's great to give these kids a little bit of skin in the game. Had a great conversation with a dear friend of mine, Father Rob Hagan, who is an assistant athletic director at Villanova. And we were having the conversation over breakfast, and he just shared with me how elated Villanova is to be able to provide these basketball players with an opportunity to reap some benefit for what they bring to the university, right? So I think it's great. I think it's going to be, it's going to take some navigation on the athletic associations, the players' parts, and coaches too, would hate to see their hands get tied and trying to manage a star quarterback at Alabama having an endorsement deal at a Chevy dealership, but has to get back for practice. I'm curious what that dynamic looks like inside the locker room. Obviously, Nick Saban knows what he's doing, so I'm sure he has things in line as is. But I think it's great for sports, and I think we have to take it back a notch, right? We're speeding up the clock for these kids. So now we need to go back into high school. Let's teach these kids how to balance a checkbook. Let's teach these kids, how to save and budget. So I think it's a good thing. I think it's been long overdue, and hopefully the athletic community can make good of this and do a great thing for these kids.
I'm muted there. My bad. The biggest thing with talking to Darren Heitner is, and we're not going to edit that out. We're gonna let that lie where that lies, Justin, because that's just natural. And I made a Zoom mistake, like we all have had. So as we wrap things up again, I think, like Darren Heitner talked about, there's a lot of tweeting, there's a lot of Instagramming. They're not as much going to the dealership, right? Which is great.
That's
and
good.
Coaches can appreciate that, right? That's unique. And then I'm sure there is someone, a liaison that's in operations that are helping with all this. And I know this, to add on the other thing is where the law side of it. Are these kids making the right decisions? Are there lawyers available to look through these things? But I digress. Again, an awesome ep. Talked a little bit about everything. Keenan Kish, congrats to you, man. Penn Management Group with UBS. Congrats on the new job there. And so that's Keenan with Penn Management Group. That's JJ Jansen, Carolina Panthers legend. You gonna make the Hall of Fame, JJ?
I already made my elementary school's Hall of Fame, so I'm all set.
There you
Hall
go.
of Famer JJ Jansen. Yeah, I'm good. They didn't give me a jacket. I got a little plaque though somewhere upstairs.
I
Love it.
And then Hall of Famer in Annapolis, Maryland, of the great city of Annapolis, my co-host, member of Not For Long Media, Justin Ayers.
Hall of Famer in my own head.
That's all that
Lefty, I see
matters.
that glove back there.
That's
Oh,
not
yeah.
mine.
That's not you. Who is that?
No, I'm not a lefty.
Keenan, you and I probably both noticed it was a left-hander, and I've been sitting here the whole episode saying, I wonder if he's a left-handed pitcher.
Exactly.
Not
That's
a
what I was
left-hander
thinking.
at all.
I was waiting to get my question.
Whose
but-
glove is that? Let our audience know.
So my friend, shout out Tyler Watson, he pitches for the Cedar Rapids Colonels, the Minnesota
Nice.
Twins high A team.
Nice.
And he signed this. I'm not a left. I don't know how to close this with my right hand. So
Get him on the pod, man. Got to bring him on.
Got to get them
yes,
on.
we'll
Get the
do that.
scoop minor league life. What's going on? Hopefully, some positive changes there.
That'd be a good episode. Get all your minor league friends, because a lot's been changing there. Trying to make sure that they're not, eating ramen 6
Every
months out of
night.
the year.
Yeah,
They get housing for free now, so that's nice.
that's
do.
huge. That's huge.
It's a big deal. So that'd
It
be
is.
a good app. I like how you said
Absolutely.
that. I'm gonna
Yeah.
use it.
You're a pro now. You're saying I like that app. We're gonna make that an app.
Right.
Oh, this is great. JJ Jansen, Keenan Kish, Justin Ayers. I'm Colin Thompson. This is another episode of Thompy Time. Guys, check out the new merch on our website. We appreciate all your support on social media and all the kind words about the podcast. Again, this is another episode of Thompy Time. Thanks for your support.